بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. The last two times we were talking about wifaq or harmony between the spouses, and today inshallah we will talk about avoiding shiqaq or disharmony, discord between the spouses. And certainly, the marital life is pretty intricate and complex, and to think that there will not be any point of shiqaq, there will not be any point of disagreement or disputation taking place between the spouses will be too idealistic, too unrealistic. So there will be times of disagreement, and we should be as trained in avoiding shiqaq as we are trained in fostering and promoting wifaq or accord. The best way to avoid shiqaq or discord is to promote wifaq or accord, because that's the best antidote to shiqaq or discord, is to have compassion, to have mercy, and to have love between the spouses. So all of what we said in the past is needed, and we should remind ourselves of it to avoid shiqaq or discord. And if you remember, we did talk about some concept in the first session when we talked about some principles that we need to know before we embark on learning the practical tips. That there are certain concepts that we need to be aware of and correct our understanding of those concepts so that we have harmony in the family. And one of those concepts was the concept of qiwama, which is sort of the position of caretaking and leadership. It's combined. The position that was given to the husband as the head of the household. Being the head of the household is qiwama. The head of the household is the caretaker, maintainer, sustainer, yet at the same time also the leader of the household. Because as we said, if you make someone a caretaker, a protector, and make him responsible for this, you will have to give him some rights to be able to discharge his obligations. Just like any responsibility in this world. Just like when you hire someone as a manager of your store, you have to give him some room to be responsible for the mistakes. You elect someone as a president, have someone as a pilot, captain of a ship. He has to have some authority to be able to navigate through the risks and dangers of the sea or air or whatever. So that's the concept of qiwama. So it is combined. Sometimes some of us men like to think of qiwama as a position of dictatorship, which is not. It's primarily a position of sustenance, maintaining, caretaking, and so on. It comes from qawwam, which means standing all the time, standing in service of his household all the time, qawwam. Qayyum, maintainer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. And it also has to do with leadership, as we said, because obligations and rights should be equitable and should come hand in glove. Now, the issue of qiwama means that the wife should listen to her husband. But what does that mean exactly? When we talk about the wife obeying her husband, we're not talking about a principal in an elementary school and the wife being the student and the husband being the principal. It doesn't work this way, because these are, mature adults that are partners in this relationship. It is not a student-teacher relationship. It is a partnership. So in this case, it's a different type of obedience. But first of all, is there such concept? The concept of obedience, ta'at al-zawj. Does it exist? It does exist. Like we said, if the husband does not abuse this concept, then the wife should always extend that right to the husband. And I will particularly talk about the conditions where the husband abuses that position of leadership, where he is not entitled to dictating to his wife or to giving commands to his wife. So the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that is reported by Ahmad from Abdurrahman ibn Auf and by Ibn Hibban from Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu, authentically, he said, إذا صلت المرأة خمسها وصامت شهرها إذا صلت المرأة خمسها وصامت شهرها وأحصنت فرجها وأطاعت زوجها قيل لها ادخلي من أي أبواب الجنة شئت. إذا صلت المرأة خمسها, if a woman prays the 5 daily prayers, خمسها, her 5, which means her 5 obligatory prayers. وصامت شهرها, and fasted her month of fasting, or her month of obligatory fasting. شهرها, her month, which means her month of obligatory fasting. وأحصنت فرجها, and she preserved her chastity and preserved her chastity. وأطاعت زوجها, and obeyed her husband. قيل لها, it will be said to her, that's in the hereafter, ادخلي من أي أبواب الجنة شئتِ, walk through any of the gates of paradise you please. Walk in to paradise through any of the gates of paradise you please. Do you know what that means? That's big, because who deserves that position? This is the position of Siddiqiyya. This is the position of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So this is the Siddiqun are the ones who will be told, come in, walk through any of the gates of paradise you please. As if the burden, keep in mind that this is because this is very telling of the burden of obeying the husband. As if the burden of obeying the husband is so huge that it would warrant such a karama. You know, it would warrant the woman to be honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such way. So men have the different obligations, you know, that they need to basically fulfill in order for them, a lot of obligations that they need to fulfill and supererogatory acts and so on to reach Siddiqiyya. And the Prophet ﷺ is saying that a woman may reach the position of Siddiqiyya, being a Siddiqa, if she does these things: prays the 5 daily prayers, fasts the month of Ramadan, protects her chastity, obeys her husband. What is so different about this hadith? Fasts? Well, everybody's fasting. You know, the daily prayers, you know, everybody is doing that. Everybody is required to do that. And then protects her chastity. I mean, it is expected of a righteous woman to protect her chastity, preserve her chastity. It is that وَأَطَاعَتْ زَوْجَهَا, and obeyed her husband. It's such a heavy burden that will make her deserving of this honor, this great honor, to be called from all the gates of paradise on the Day of Judgment, and to be equated with the Siddiqeen on the Day of Judgment. That's a great honor. Having said that, it is important, you know, it is important that we know our obligations before we know our rights. So, you know, a woman should really focus on this hadith and understand the breadth and width and the depth of this obligation to be able to fulfill that you know, requirement and be called from any of the gates of paradise. For the man, you should be more focused on your own obligations, what gets you through the gates of paradise. not your rights in this dunya. If you are of the people of this dunya, not of the people of the akhirah, you're not going to be, your memory will be better at your obligations than your rights. The hadith that you will remember are the hadith that talk about your obligations as a husband, if you're the man, your obligations as the wife, if you're the woman. Those are the ones that you will remember more. The hadith that will talk about your rights, you still remember them, but you remember less than the hadith that will talk about your obligations. Why? Because the hadith and the ayat that talk about the obligations, they get you ahead in the hereafter. And the hadith and ayat that talk about your rights will get you ahead in this dunya. Where do you want to get ahead more? The hereafter or in this day? Certainly in the akhirah, in the hereafter. So remember your obligations. As we said before, تُؤَدُّونَ الَّذِي عَلَيْكُمْ وَتَسْأَلُونَ اللَّهَ الَّذِي لَكُمْ. You perform your obligations and ask Allah for your rights. The Prophet ﷺ said this to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. You do that first. You perform your obligations first, and then you ask Allah for your rights. When is it not important, when is it not required of the woman to obey her husband? Because don't think that this is an absolute requirement. The obedience of Allah is the only absolute obedience, and the obedience of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is secondary to the obedience of Allah. It is because we obey Allah that we must obey His Prophet. But the absolute, in every sense, obedience is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He told us that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all the prophets are infallible. They're not going to convey to us something that's wrong. That's not from Him. So we obey them based on that. But for any other human being, even the parent, obedience is qualified, muqayyad, not mutlaq, not absolute. It is conditional, mashroot. So what are the shurut? Where is it that a woman may not be required to obey her husband? Shirk? But, widen the scope a little bit. Or ma'asiyah. If he commands her of any ma'asiyah, including shirk and anything that is smaller ma'asiyah, any disobedience, any act of disobedience. Bukhari and Muslim reported from Ali radiallahu anhu, from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he said, لا طاعة في معصية الله إنما الطاعة في المعروف. لا طاعة, there is no obedience. في معصية الله, concerning the disobedience of Allah, or at the expense of disobeying Allah. إنما, which means exclusively, إنما الطاعة في المعروف. Most certainly, ta'a is only in that which is ma'ruf. Ma'ruf. إنما الطاعة في المعروف. So if the husband obeys her of any ma'asiyah, she should not listen to him. It's not that she does not need to, she should not listen to him. But that's the first one. Is that it? Because most of the time we think that this is it. That he can tell her of anything afterwards. If it is not ma'asiyah, you'll have to do it. Because, it's not ma'asiyah, you have to do it. Is that true? No, it's not true. Also, if he commands her to abandon the routine sunnah, she does not need to listen to him. So, Taqiyuddin al-Subki, rahimahullah, the great Shafi'i scholar, he quoted Tartusi, rahimahullah, great Maliki scholar. He quoted a statement from him where he said, and this is concerning the parents, and we use this because the obedience to the parents is even a higher priority. So if you don't need to obey the parents in this regard, then you don't need to obey the husband either. So he said, إذا نهاه عن السنة المرة بعد المرة أطاعهما فإذا نهاه على الدوام فلا طاعة لهما لما فيه من إماتة الدين. If they prohibit him from performing sunnah on a random basis every once in a while, if they so your father tells you or your husband, you know, don't do the sunnah after Dhuhr today, just do this instead. You listen, you say yes. If they come and tell you, don't ever do the sunnah after Dhuhr, you don't listen. You don't have to listen to them. Because he said, if they prohibit him from a sunnah on a random basis once in a while, he should obey them. But if they prohibit him permanently from a sunnah, he should not, because that will be compromising of the deen. Imatat ad-deen means the giving death to the deen or causing death to the deen. It just means compromising the deen. Will be compromising the deen. That's the number 2. Number 3, where else does she not need to listen? If what you're saying is senseless, she does not need to listen. Yeah, senseless. However, here is like a quagmire. Who determines what's senseless? Because to her it may be senseless, to you it is not senseless. Senseless in this regard is what normal sound, you know, sort of like sort of straight people would recognize as senseless. You know, so if you come and have like 5 or 6 people sitting in the masjid randomly, and you say to them, come, sit, let's come together. Do you guys think it is okay for me to tell my wife to stand up facing the wall and raise her hands up for an hour? Likely the 5 or 6 people will tell you, no, that is senseless. That is senseless. So the definition of senseless is by normal, sound-minded people agreeing on it being senseless versus sensible. Where is the proof? Do you remember the hadith that we started with, that is reported by Bukhari and Muslim from Ali? إِنَّمَا الطَّاعَةُ فِي الْمَعْرُوفِ. Verily, ta'a or obedience is only in that which is ma'ruf. Is ma'ruf the antonym of ma'siyah or disobedience? No. The antonym would be ta'a, not ma'ruf. Ma'ruf is the antonym of munkar, that which is repulsive, senseless. Ma'ruf means known to be good, known to be sensible, known to be reasonable. So it is customary, it is known. And customs do change from time to time and from place to place. So ma'ruf is contingent upon the customs of the time, as long as they are not in conflict with the text of Revelation. That is what ma'ruf. So you bring a few people, you come to the masjid, you're in disagreement with your wife over the sensibility or lack thereof of a particular matter. She goes to the masjid and she talks to some wise, righteous people, normal people, and you do the same thing. You talk to normal, righteous, wise people. Tell them, is this sensible, senseless? You don't have to say that this is happening between me and my wife, because divulging secrets of the family is discouraged, is extremely discouraged. But you just talk about it as if it is a friend or a theoretical matter. That is how we determine sensibility. Because the Prophet said, إِنَّمَا الطَّاعَةُ فِي الْمَعْرُوفِ, that which is reasonable. And it is not reasonable to punish your wife like you punish a kid in elementary school. Even that punishment is not here in America in elementary schools, but back home, they would do that to us, or they did that to us. You face the wall, you raise your hands, stand like this until your hands become numb. I was not punished, by the way, that way, and I was never punished that way, but they used to do that sometimes. So that's the third one. The third one is that the command has to be sensible, reasonable, and that is defined by the average, normal, righteous, wise folks, in your environment. But there is another one where she does not need to listen. Where else or when else does she not need to listen?
He commands her to break ties of family.
مشقة. Oh, if you ask her to break the ties of, that is under ma'asiyah. That is under disobedience. Yeah. Under disobedience, everything that's disobedience, she doesn't need to listen. Anything that's disobedience. Okay. If the matter, is not of benefit for anyone, is not of benefit for anyone. So Ibn Hajar al-Haytami, rahimahullah, a Shafi'i scholar, said that it is not incumbent on the child to follow the madhab of his father because his father commanded him, unless there is a reason behind it. So the reason behind it, like if the father is Shafi'i and tells his son to become Shafi'i, and the son decides to become Maliki instead, it may be incumbent on the son to listen to the father if he provides justification. If he says to his son, there are no Maliki scholars in this neighborhood, so you're going to waste your time. This town has no Maliki scholars. There is no one to teach you Maliki madhab. So listen to me and go learn the Shafi'i madhab. If he provided justification, then the son would need to listen to the father. If it's just a matter of taste, a matter of preference, it's not your life. It's his life. He's the one who's going to be Maliki or Shafi'i or this or that. It's not your life. Well, why do you have to force this on him when it is not your life? Unless you have justification. And the same applies to, you see, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said that whoever says that a woman may be forced to marry someone, and that is not the previously married woman, that's the bikr who have not been previously married, and some madhahib, she may be forced by her father only, or the grandfather, according to the Shafi'is. But for simplicity, by the father only, she may be forced, not by anyone else. And they're saying she may be forced by the father only because he may be more aware of her benefit and interest, and she may be too shy. He may be, and because of ufur shafaqatihi, because of the compassion that fathers have, it is not expected that he will make her marry someone that is not good for her. So that is the rationale of the Shafi'is when they say that he can force his previously unmarried, not previously married, the not previously married daughter. But Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah says that it is, if he cannot force her to eat a type of food that she does not desire to eat, how can he force her to marry a man that she does not desire to marry, who will be living with her for the rest of her life? So he's saying that no, she should not be forced. He may not have the right to force her to marry anyone, even if he's the father, even if he has a lot of compassion, because that father does not even have the right to force her to eat a food that she doesn't like. let alone marry a husband that she does not like. Okay, so in this case, there has to be justification. There has to be some benefit for the child or the parent. So you just don't tell me, you know, for the child or the parent or for the husband and the wife. So when the husband asks of his wife like anything, there has to be a benefit either for him or for her. If it is of no benefit whatsoever, then she does not need to listen. She does not need to listen if there is no benefit. Where else does she not need to listen? And I'm giving a long list of where she does not need to listen, because the default is that she listens. But these are things that are important to know so that we are not transgressing, we are not, you know, trespassing the bounds. Because everybody has to have bounds. If it causes her harm, she does not need to listen. If the command causes her harm, keep in mind, it may be halal, it may be somewhat sensible, it may bear benefit for the husband, it may be even we said halal, sensible, it may not compromise the religion in any way. So it lacks all of the criteria that we talked about before, but it is harmful to her. And so Ibn Taymiyyah also says that if the father commands the child to do something that is shaq, that entails hardship, the child will still need to listen to the father unless it causes him harm. But what is the shaqqa that we are talking about here, or the hardship that we're talking about here? This is the hardship that is customary in the takalif, in the religious obligations. Hardship that is customary in religious obligations. So isn't waking up in the morning and making wudu and standing up to pray, doesn't it entail some degree of hardship? That is customary in the religious obligations. That level of hardship is not the hardship that is to be removed in Sharia, which we say, you know, dafa al-mashaqqa or rafa al-mashaqqa, or, you know, removing hardship. It is the intent of the legislator to remove hardship, haraj, from the mukallaf. So how do you measure, how do you gauge? Look at the religious obligations. Fasting, you know, in the summer days, waking up to make wudu in the winter for Fajr and so on. These are the hardships. Don't tell me jihad is one of the hardships, and that entails, you know, cutting off of limbs and, you know, things of that nature, smiting at your necks, your enemy smiting at your necks and so on. No, it's not. That is not one of the hardships that we're talking about here. Jihad was only legislated because the abandonment of it causes a greater hardship than the jihad itself. Because when you abandon jihad and the enemy takes over your land and takes over and compromises your honor and all of the stuff that was done in the past when people get defeated by their enemies, that is a greater hardship. So that is not one of the hardship that one of the average hardships of taklif that we're talking about. We're talking about praying Fajr, waking up and making wudu in winter for Fajr. We're talking about fasting in a summer day. These are the hardships. Measure this, gauge this, and if the husband is asking the wife a greater hardship than customarily known in religious obligations, she does not need to listen. And certainly if it causes her harm, she does not need to listen. Therefore, we have 5 conditions where she does not need to listen. Ma'asiyah, any disobedience, she does not need to listen. Abandonment of part of the Sharia, even if it is not wajib, but permanent abandonment of part of Sharia, or even if it is a sunnah, she does not need to listen. Commanding something senseless, she does not need to listen. Commanding something that has no benefit for her or her husband, she does not need to listen. Number 5 is commanding her to do something that is that causes hardship beyond what is customarily experienced in religious obligations, or harm or hardship that is beyond what's customary in religious obligations. Any one of those 5 commands, she does not need to listen. One of them, she should not listen, which is the first one, commanding disobedience. She will be disobedient to God if she listens. The other ones, if she listens, it's up to her. I mean, if he commands her to do something that's senseless, not a ma'asiyah, but senseless, and she decides to listen, it's up to her, but she doesn't need to listen. Okay, so these are the things. So now we know that obedience will get the woman to the level of siddiqa. She will become a siddiqa. It will be said to her, walk through any of the gates of paradise you please. But this obedience is conditional, it's qualified, it is not absolute, and men should know this and should remember it and should memorize these 5 conditions. Then the next point that is very important to avoid shiqaq or to avoid discord is our tone in general. You know, and generally speaking, we have to fine-tune our tone, adjust it, so that it's a tone of gentleness. Inna Allah rafiq yuhibbu rifqa. Allah is gentle and He loves gentleness. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said to Aisha radiallahu anha when she replied to a group of Jews who came to the Prophet ﷺ and said to him, Assalamu alayka Muhammad, let death be upon you Muhammad. She replied in a likewise manner, you know, and then the Prophet ﷺ said to her, why do you say this? She said, didn't you hear what he said? He said to her, didn't you hear how I replied? I said, wa alaykum. Alaykum, just wa alaykum. No sam, no ghadab, no la'na, just alaykum. Let the same be upon you. So, whatever greeting you extended to me, I am returning the same. Wa alaykum. Let the same be upon you. So here, it's gentle, because keep in mind, wallahi, it's a matter of training, it's a matter of habit. If we get ourselves accustomed to saying the good word all the time, it will be a second nature. You will not, the bad words will not come out right. You will not know how to say them. You will have a tongue tie. You're not gonna be, it's not gonna be part of your persona, not you. Therefore, to say a bad word, a curse word, a swear word will not be natural. It will be very hard for you. You will need to put in a lot of effort. Whereas most of the time, the bad words come out on our tongues very easy, very naturally, spontaneously, because of the habit. And we just gotta walk away from this. وَمَثَلُ كَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ أَصْلُهَا ثَابِتٌ وَفَرْعُهَا فِي السَّمَاءِ تُؤْتِي أُكُلَهَا كُلَّ حِينٍ بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهَا. And the likeness of a good word is like a good tree. The roots of it are established, firmly established in the ground, and the branches are up in the heavens. تُؤْتِي أُكُلَهَا كُلَّ حِينٍ بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهَا. It brings about its fruit time and time again, all the time, by the permission of its Lord. You don't we cannot really imagine the consequences of the good word. You just sow it in the ground and leave it, and you come back years later. Sometimes, wallahi, you could impress a child by a good word that will make a difference in his life, in his career, or a teenager, or someone, or a wife, or a husband. So rifq is primarily the verbal rifq, verbal gentleness, because that has a great impact on our interpersonal interactions in general. So it is a matter of training. You just need to watch yourself. I know I'm branching off, but we have to really do it. I just don't want to say it and move on to another topic, because we have to really underscore the importance of it. We have to have a plan. It's just not going to happen this way. You listen to this maw'izah and it is not going to change much unless you have a plan to basically coach yourself into speaking gently, speaking only that which is good, making your words good words. Kalam tayyib. Every word that you utter, kalima tayyib, kalam tayyib. And that requires watchfulness over yourself. That requires self-reckoning. So you're watchful throughout the day. At the end of the day, at night, you say to yourself, what have I said today to my wife or my husband throughout the day? In general, what have I said to everybody? But also, if you really want to fix your marital relationship, you just inventory everything that you said or did to or with your spouse. That's called self-reckoning. And then the next day, you want to catch the bad word before it comes out. You'll say to yourself, I said to her today, or I said to him today, such and such. I should never say that again. And then the next time you will be attempting to say it, you will catch yourself before you say it, because you actually had a sit down with yourself and some sort of self-reckoning, a session of self-reckoning with yourself, and now it's here. It's in your the forefront of your head. So that is how we develop that rifq. Rifq comes by training. It does not. Most of the people, some people are born with rifq, but a lot of people nowadays are really not genuinely, naturally gentle. So it has to be acquired. And the Prophet told us that everything could be acquired. Did he not say that? Where did he say that? He said, إنما العلم بالتعلم وإنما الحلم بالتحلم ومن يتحرى الخير يعطى ومن يتقي الشر يوقى. إنما العلم بالتعلم, verily knowledge or being knowledgeable is by learning. وإنما الحلم بالتحلم, and being forbearing is by practice of forbearance. And whoever seeks that which is good will be given that which he sought. And whoever avoids that which is evil, he will be spared of it. He will be protected from it. So even the very ardently sort of established qualities that we have, they can be removed, they can be cleansed, they can be changed. And the beauty of this hadith is, you see, everything the Prophet ﷺ said, you really need to pause, you really need to reflect, because it just drips with beauty. It's just like, these two qualities are not haphazardly put together. علم بالتعلم, حلم بالتحلم. This is not for sajah. This is not for rhymes. The Prophet never did that. He was not restricted by rhymes. But the reason why he mentioned those two things, very, very obvious reason. Because all sane human beings recognize the first one, which is ilm bit-ta'allum, acquiring knowledge by learning. And they dispute over the second one, hilm, particularly hilm, forbearance. Because most of the people say, I'm a nervous person. By nature, I'm just like that. I was born like that. I was born short-fused. And then they justify all of their aggression and all of their, misconduct by being born short-fused, nervous, and just like that. Warm-blooded, whatever names they have for that. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying, as much as ilm is by ta'allum, that acquiring knowledge is by learning, hilm also, forbearance, patience, could also be acquired by practice. This requires effort, and this requires effort. Both could be acquired, ilm and hilm, knowledge and forbearance. So, but he said bit-tahallum. Tahallum, the form of this verb is like tafa'ul. Tafa'ul means extra work. It is different from fi'l. Tafa'ul is different from fi'l, which means extra effort put into the practice of forbearance. So he's saying that it requires effort. It requires effort. But this effort is worth it, and you need to train yourself until you get there. And you have to gauge your progress over time. So that's the undertone that should be there, which is undertone of gentleness, rifq, and speaking the good word and so on. What time is it now?
We still have 25.
Okay. How long do we have?
Like 20 minutes.
Okay, maybe I should leave some time for questions.
Is it like after 10 minutes?
Yeah, to leave some time for questions.
We're going to start the questions after 10 minutes.
Yeah, so the last point that I want to mention here, to avoid discord, because there are a lot of points, talking about discord, there are a lot of points. But the point that I wanted to mention before we get into the last phase, which is the phase of separation, which sometimes is an inevitable evil. But it is quite important that, half of the success of a discussion is about timing. So when you want to have a discussion with your spouse, choose the right time. Don't talk to someone when they are hungry. Don't talk to someone when they are angry. Don't talk to someone when they are upset, distressed, tired. They just came back from work, or they're just having a bad day. That urgency to talk about any matter is not worth it if the talk will be self-defeating or will be counterproductive. It could be urgent, but if you talk about it now, things will get worse. So defer it, even though it is urgent, defer it. Learn to have patience. Just calm yourself down, defer it, and let's talk about it when everybody is in a good mood, because that is when the talk will be productive. And remind yourself all the time of the hadith, because this hadith is extremely important to avoid discord, where the Prophet said to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari and Mu'adh ibn Jabal, عَلِّمُوا يَسِّرُوا وَلَا تُعَسِّرُوا بَشِّرُوا وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا وَإِذَا غَضِبَ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلْيَسْكُتْ. Preach, teach, preach, عَلِّمُوا, teach the people. يَسِّرُوا وَلَا تُعَسِّرُوا, make things easy and don't make them hard. بَشِّرُوا وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا, give glad tidings, don't repel the people away. وَإِذَا غَضِبَ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلْيَسْكُتْ, and whenever one of you becomes angry, he should stay silent. Whenever one of you becomes angry, he should stay silent. And if you're not angry, but you know that your spouse is now distressed or angry, stay silent also. Because any discussion is bilateral. And don't make him or her lose it. If they're angry now, just leave them alone until they calm down. Last thing that I wanted to mention is that talaq itself does not have to be ugly. It is ugly in and of itself, but you don't need to make the ugly uglier. Divorce, you don't need to make it uglier. الطلاق مرتان فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said divorce is 2 times before the third, which is the final. After those 2 times, you either hold them or keep them بالمعروف, in kindness, or release them بإحسان. Ihsan is even greater than kindness. Ihsan is perfection. So you want the talaq, if it has to happen with perfection, to happen with the least damage possible to the 2 parties, and more importantly, their kids, their children. And so that requires, and people's character is truly tested during times of conflict and dispute, not during times of compassion and love and so on. Because everybody would be nice to those whom he loves or she loves, but people's character is truly tested during times of conflict and dispute. So your conduct during the talaq will be more of a gauge of your character, your compassion, your integrity, your righteousness, than your conduct during marriage. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put harmony and compassion and mercy in all of our homes, and protect our families and protect our children, and preserve them and raise them in goodness and righteousness, and make them qurrat ayn, or the comfort of their parents' eyes, and make our spouses, with our husbands or wives, the comfort of our eyes and comfort of our hearts. قل قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم.
Is it something that should be recommended, or if the husband really wants her to stay home to raise the kids and stuff?
Should she stay home or should she go out to work? That's a matter that has to be decided by mutual agreement between the 2 spouses. It is very, very important at the outset of things that we are transparent and clear about our intents and goals and aspirations and expectations, everything. We should really be clear at the time of getting married, and then afterwards it should be a matter of mutual agreement. Women are allowed to go out to work for the benefit of their families. Muslim reported from Jabir radiallahu anhu that his aunt went out to take care of her orchard, and some man saw her in the way and told her to go back, and the Prophet ﷺ told her to proceed. She had just
I've seen other side of the case. They are like girls who doesn't want to work, and they will say it on the face during proposal time. They will like, "Oh, I don't want to work. You run money."
Okay, so if she doesn't want to work, then it is up to you to decide whether you want stay at home a wife or not. I think a lot of people do like that. But in general, so the Prophet ﷺ said to her, proceed and take care of your orchard. You may do something good and give some charity, or do something good for yourself, benefit yourself or others. So the Prophet is saying it is allowable for a woman to go out to work. Yet, if we just take this in isolation from all of the context is that most women did not go out to work. The context is that it is not a society where the children are abandoned or left for Nintendo or the TV or video games, or wicked friends or the streets. Children, So it is not a society where every woman is going out to work and every man is going out to work, and there is something called the elderly people. They're left to rot. They just, no one is willing to take care of them. So they just put in some nursing homes. And I'm not saying that this is always evil. Sometimes it is just a necessity. But that is not how we should construct this community, where the elderly will be abandoned because no one is there to take care of them. Homes are empty. The wife is a career woman, the man is a career man. Homes are empty. So the elderly are not taken care of, no one is looking after them, and the children are not taken care of, and the children come back from school and then they just try to fix some dinner for themselves, and they don't come back to find a mom to confide into, to complain to have a conversation with about their difficulties, their distress at school. No wonder we are seeing a lot of psychological disturbances in these children, and issues that are happening at higher rates than they did in the past. Even things just as simple and straightforward as the problem of obesity. Obesity started to become an epidemic in America when we started to consume the TV dinner. And people are not cooking at home, and people are buying food from outside, and that food is just stuffed with unhealthy ingredients and sugar and corn syrup and this and that to make it taste better. Many problems happen when we don't observe the natural order, natural distribution of roles that Allah designated. So for the individual family, yes, the woman may go out to work, and it would not be so if you don't have kids, if you have kids and she is going out half day, part-time, she's still able to manage. If the kids grew up and she would like to pursue a career, that's fine. Things of that nature. If you don't have people to look after, elderly to look after, and it is case by case. But what is un-Islamic is basically to have abandoned homes, and to have abandoned kids, and to have abandoned elders. That is not Islamic. After that, after we take care of what we need to take care of, then it is case by case. So if she's been working part-time, or she's working at the same school where her kids go, or she's working part-time, she's still able to take care of her kids. Or she has like a mother that takes care of the kids, a grandma that lives at home, healthy, capable, still young enough to take care of the kids, and she's going out to work, then at least there is some sort of arrangement that is working out for the family. And then if her kids grow up and she wants to go to work, then she may go to work. The principle is women are allowed to work, but we need to be basically conscious of all of the obligations and all of the needs of the family when we make that decision. Yes.
Could be also a question not related to the topic.
It doesn't have to be related to the topic.
Yeah, brother, don't just smile and keep.
Anyone wants to ask a question about halal meat?
You either ask a question or.
Oh, that's good. Alhamdulillah. So things are clear. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.